See, I like how you do it, baby. I can really show you how to move it.
And welcome back. My next guest is bringing hope and helping to create a pathway to pregnancy for couples who are facing infertility. Here with me now is registered acupuncturist Mary Wong. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an
Oh,
honor.
it's a pleasure. So I understand that you had a recent talk at Google, Talk Google, which is like a TED, kind of like same thing as TED?
Yes.
Which was called Conceivable, right? Or something to that effect?
Yes.
Tell us about the talk a little bit.
Well, it's about dispelling shame and providing hope for those trying to conceive, and really dispelling lots of myths around fertility challenges.
Okay. So how long was the talk? Was it a lengthy talk? Or?
It's an hour long. So TED Talks are basically 11 minutes. It's 18 minutes, rather. And Talks at Google, their version of it, it's just more extensive, more well-breathed.
Okay. So, I mean, not that I look for pregnant women around, but I tend to see a lot of them around. So is infertility an issue then? Is that something that people should start to pay attention to?
Well, the problem is that when you see these pregnant women and their children, what you don't know is the story behind it. And unfortunately, 1 in 6 couples are having issues and challenges.
1 in 6?
In a lifetime. So that means anytime you walk into a Starbucks or a staff room, if there's 24 people, at least 4 people are having challenges either currently, in the future sometime, or have had challenges in the past.
And what kind of challenges are we talking about?
So it can be wide and varied. So for women, it could be things like endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, so irregular cycles, then even thyroid problems. And unfortunately, in North America, there's a huge incidence of obesity and diabetes, and that can impact fertility, and that's men and women.
Okay, so I understand that you went through an infertility issue, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that? Or?
Well, okay.
While we're here, right?
Yes. So when I was 38, my husband and I began to conceive, and like many, unfortunately, we were all, well, a lot of people are delaying childbearing years, right? Just because of the difficulty in finding a partner, or just the socioeconomics, because you know, we have to get an education and then try to make ends meet, and then once you establish yourself, then you look into having a child.
Right.
So when we tried, you know, because I've been working with women and couples for decades, it was a complete shock to find that I personally had a challenge. And what occurred was that when we went to the doctors, we found that I had blocked fallopian tubes. And that's necessary and essential for having the sperm meet the egg. So really, the only way that we would ever allow our bodies, our eggs and sperm to meet was outside in a Petri dish. And that's certainly not what I imagined as a little girl. And yet, when it came down to it, that's what we chose, because that was our only option. And so thankfully, I integrated it with Eastern and Western medicine.
Which was my next question, right? So which brings me to the book, right? You wrote a book?
Yes, it's called Pathways to Pregnancy, Personal Stories and Practical Advice for Your Fertility Journey. And the reason why was when I was going through it, there was a real missing in it for me. Like, I couldn't really find anything that was giving me more hope. And in fact, because I work with women going through challenges, they were my source of hope, because as much as they came in despairing, most often they would wind up conceiving one way or another. So I wanted to bring their stories to the public, to be able to share with those that are going through it silently, because no one talks about it. Right.
Well, it's a tough issue, I guess, to talk about. But what I was interesting is that you said you came from a Western medication, Western way of doing and then you integrated it with the East. So why was that? What made you say, or maybe it's important to incorporate both of them to get the kind of results that you got?
Well, my intention was to go into medical school, and something happened. You can read about it, because we have shorter time, right? So through fate, I'll call it, I ended up going into Chinese medicine. And because there was a lack, my grandmother fell ill, and basically Chinese medicine saved her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then it became, oh my goodness, I need to bridge that gap between Eastern and Western medicine. So then In the more recent years, more than a decade or so, I've been working a lot with fertility. And integrating the two has been, I think, a lifesaver for most.
Of course. And if there are some advice that you can give to people that are going through infertility right now, what are some key things that they should know?
Well, there are many,
Okay.
but I'll just include a couple, right?
Okay.
So the very first thing is that, unfortunately, we are being bombarded by lots of chemicals. So whether it's in the environment or with our food, so that impacts our cells right down to our gonads.
Right.
So every cell can be impacted if we have a huge amount of exposure of it, right? So really minimize exposure to that. Secondly, about your weight. So, either being overweight to a certain degree and even underweight can impact for women our ability to menstruate. And of course you need that, a regularity in our cycles to be able to conceive. So it's important, and I know we're talking about fitness in
Correct,
general,
yes.
right? So this
Yes.
is a real big thing.
Real
and
big
we
issue,
need
right?
to, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's two.
That's great. I wish we had more time, but I appreciate you coming here and sharing the good news with us, and hopefully we can resolve this issue, right? With so many of them that are trying to have, babies. So hopefully you'll be an inspiration to many of them. So thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. When we come back, my healthy lifestyle tip of the week is next. Stay tuned.